My next question for you actually is critics might say that affordable housing and investor returns cannot coexist. How does your AI powered system defy that myth, by increasing profitability and resident success?
Yeah. So, one of the things I like to say in private equity world is concessionary. So are the returns concessionary? Meaning if I do a regular project, I'm going to make a 20% annualized return. But if I do an impact project, I'm making a 10% annualized return.
Welcome to the King Dems Podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems Podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. You're once again welcome to the King Dems Podcast. And today I've got with me fighting out of Texas, United States of America. Make welcome Samuel, the disruptive capitalist. Sal, how are you, Samuel?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Whoa, I guess you were thinking, yeah, now you're a fighter. We spoke briefly about the UFC before we started the pod. Whoa, how are you doing today? How's Texas, my man?
Man, it's weather is good. We've had rain this year. Yeah.
I hear Texas is typically warm all year round, and there are a lot of my people there in Texas, a lot of Nigerians there in Texas, and they say it reminds them of the weather back home. It's summer all year round in Nigeria. So tell me about the weather in Texas.
So, I mean, it's hot in the summer. We occasionally might get a little bit of snow in the winter, but most of the time we get no snow in the winter unless you're up north in Dallas.
Wow.
But yeah, Texas is a good place. It's a really good place.
I think I love Texas already.
Yeah.
Wow. You have always described yourself as a disruptive capitalist, someone who believes profit and social impact aren't just compatible, but essential partners. So can you kick us off with a story that epitomizes this philosophy in action?
Yeah. So I started a company 7 years ago, and, our objective from the very, very beginning was to find a way to help investors make money helping people. Because I had learned, a decade before that when you align incentives where people make money helping other people, like it becomes sustainable, it becomes repeatable. And
Repetition breeds mastery.
right, repetition breeds mastery, right? And look, nonprofits help a lot of people, but nonprofits spend a lot of their time and money seeking more money to fund the nonprofit. So they spend a lot of money going after more money,
Looking for money.
looking for money.
I've actually worked with a non-profit before, so I can very much relate.
Yeah, it's very expensive. They'll spend millions of dollars a year just trying to get millions of dollars a year, and it's not sustainable. It's never a sustainable model. It only works when you have a very, very wealthy benefactor who can cover it. So I wanted to do stuff that nonprofits do, but I wanted to do it under a capitalistic paradigm. And so to me, that was, how do I disrupt the capitalism where it's only about the money, and make it about money and purpose or impact, making a difference.
Yeah, that was what was on my mind. I love that word impact, Yeah, about the money and the impact. That resonates with me.
Yeah. And so we set out, I'm like, well, how can I make a lot of money helping a lot of people? And I think I was in probably in Jamina, Chad, or West Africa. Maybe it was when I was in Afghanistan. One of those times, or maybe all those times, I just kept looking at people in these villages and thinking, at the end of the day, it's all about our home. Where we grow up determines it doesn't determine our destiny, but it determines where we start for sure. And it determines a lot of what our philosophies, our mindsets are based on the people we grow up around. And, so I started thinking, well, real estate is a place to make a lot of money. What if we start doing real estate
Especially,
where we go after very distressed assets, take them over, rehabilitate them, turn them into clean, safe places for people to live, and we get a big upside with repositioning the asset and making money off of it. So that's what we set out to do. We started in mobile home parks. We did that for a few years. It worked out really well. In the beginning, I learned some hard lessons on a few of them. And then we got into apartment complexes, buying very distressed apartment communities, 20, 40, 50% occupied, rehabilitating those and turning those into clean, safe places that were naturally affordable. And we did that probably for 6 of the past 7 years. And in the process, we learned that you can absolutely make money helping people, but what we needed was a nonprofit portion that would come in and take care of our residents. So a resident in the US, somebody who loses their job that's on the lower socioeconomic scale, they lose their hourly job, they can't pay rent. And so by law in the US, you have the Fair Housing Act, which says that you have to give the same thing to everybody, meaning you can't get free rent to somebody if they lose their job. You have to kick them out. That's the law. And so people get mad at landlords, but it's the US, it's the law. Like I have to abide by the law. So rather than kick people out, what we started doing was reaching out to nonprofits, local nonprofits, charities, churches, and say, hey, can you help this lady? She lost her job, or this young man, these guys lost their job. They need help getting a new job. They need help covering their rent. And so we started working a lot with nonprofits to help support our residents. And in exchange, that actually made our deals more profitable because now their rents were getting covered. We were having less evictions. People get less mad, don't tear up the units. And so that was really, really helpful. But we also discovered that small towns don't have access to nonprofits, just cities do. And we just kept learning all these lessons in the process. And eventually it led us to where we are today in our current strategy.
your journey has been quite adventurous. Would I say as an understatement? Yeah, adventurous is an understatement for the twists and turns that your journey has actually gone through. Firefighting, military strategy, global health, and now real estate innovation. So how do these seemingly disconnected roles connect, under your mission to create launch pads of human potential?
Yeah, all those roles are all about service. I've been like this since I've been a young man. I've been focused on serving others since I've been a young man. And so firefighting, I enlisted in the Air Force as a firefighter. That's a service role, right? Helping people in need. I became a healthcare executive and got into global health, did global health for over a decade, focused on working with foreign militaries, foreign governments, helping them create sustainable healthcare systems, primarily focused around patient movement, aeromedical patient movement. I worked at USAID, did a fellowship with them for a year. Uh, the Ebola response, just all that stuff all ties back to, how do you serve your fellow man and just that passion that I grew up in Oklahoma, rural Oklahoma, down the dirt road from a Indian reservation or Native American reservation. And just, I've had a relationship with poverty, American poverty, and then spending time in Afghanistan, which was the poorest country on the planet, and a lot of the other ones in sub-Saharan Africa, West Africa, and Asia. I just grew a passion for helping people get out of poverty. Like, how do we do that?
Wow. You know, you talking about USAID. I do remember that the not for profit that I did work with, they did get grants from USAID. They're usually involved in quite interesting, would I say, projects. Yeah, especially when it comes to healthcare. Another thing that yourself and myself have in common is the fact that you were a scout, a Boy Scout, and of course, Eagle Scout and now a veteran. There is something they always say, always be prepared. And that has always followed me even now in my life. I think it's a lifelong thing. So how has that philosophy of always be prepared and, the military strategies, military leadership, has that shaped your approach to tackling systemic poverty?
Yeah. So A great question. I was an Eagle Scout. It's really hard to find Eagle Scouts these days. Boy Scouts of America used to mean something. Um,
Yeah.
and it lost a lot of that meaning when they got ransacked by public opinion.
We are all badged with honor, like I'm always proud that I was a Boy Scout.
Yeah. Yeah. Somehow they got villainized, attacked, and like
Cancel
destroyed.
culture.
Yeah.
Cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Right. Yeah. How dare we teach little boys to be grown men? So, and good fathers and husbands and all those things. But yeah, how dare we do that? So
Satire.
yeah, I question reality sometimes, like what's happening right now. So anyhow, so that and the military again, and then where I came from, the military is a great experiment in poverty. Right, the majority of people who join the U.S. military are coming out of the lower socioeconomic rungs of society. And so we based a lot of what we do now off of that model. So in the military model, you come in, you get housing, you get healthcare, you get food, but you also get somebody that's going to kick you in the butt and hold you accountable to do the work you need to do, the education, the job skill training, and et cetera, so that you can become a functioning member of society and not on welfare all your life. And you look at people who grow up in welfare, in projects, in poverty, and what do they not have? Well, they don't have the housing they have is terrible. Public housing in the US is terrible, like it is most places. And then they're surrounded by a whole bunch of poor people, and then they don't have access. So in the military, you get access to job training. If you grow up in, let's say, Gary, Indiana, or in New York City in the slums, you don't have access to job training. And the Housing and Urban Development, Department of Housing and Urban Development, they have some programs for job training, but it's really up to the cities, the states to deploy those programs. And they're very haphazard. They're not standardized. Reporting is not required for all the programs. And so it's just not very well executed. Um, and then, but in the military, you've got this training program, and then you've got this mechanism to hold people accountable, and then you have a mechanism to cover people's rents and everything else. And so we've taken that and we've applied it to regular housing, and we found that a lot of that stuff still works. It just needs to be done in a little bit different way, more streamlined, more efficient. And so now we're trying to work with public housing authorities in the United States, the government housing, and saying, like, let's bring the same system that we use in the military to help millions of people climb the socioeconomic ladder and get job skills, get training, go out and be functioning members of society without being on welfare. And that our system works. It's been proven. We just are working now to scale it. Because my goal is to help millions of people get out of poverty. That's what I want to do. But it has to be in a way that makes investors money so that they do it over and over and over again. And so that's what we're doing.
So, you actually talk about something that sounds like the title of my 100th episode. I think you should go watch my milestone episode. You argue that government systems are broken and private sector efficiency is key. So, can you break down how your model with impact growth capital this, especially when working with entities like public housing authorities?
Yeah. So there's 3,300 housing authorities across the country. All right. And then when you take on private owners, there's thousands of. And if we're just talking about housing, so apartment complexes, mobile home parks, maybe built to rent communities as well. So the question is, how is our model better than the broken model? The current broken model is, here's these HUD programs, housing authorities, 3,300 of you guys, pick which ones you want to use. These are the models. Good luck. All those models, they are all focused on allocation of capital. All right. We have $70 billion of HUD funding to go out to 3,300 people, and they need to fight for it. All right. What if, instead of focusing on how much money we have to give out to everybody, what if we focused on how many people are we helping get out of poverty, right? So it's not just it's not the money, it's the focus. What are we focused on? And the focus is on, taking care of people who are in poverty, which is great. The government should do that. But the government needs to work on getting people out of the system, right? You have 40 million able adults who have access to Medicaid in the US. And they complain all the time that Medicaid is spending trillions of dollars. They need to reduce how much we're spending on Medicaid. And so then they go and negotiate prices with pharmaceutical companies, which they should. Pharmaceutical companies are raping and pillaging America. So which is great, but that's not going to solve Medicaid. You want to solve Medicaid? Create a system, which our system does, that takes every single human in that system and provides them a personalized roadmap to get from where they are to making 60 grand a year in US dollars. If they're making 60 grand a year, they're no longer on Medicaid. And you just solve Medicaid. You want to save $1.2 trillion a year, deploy our system across 40 million people. And even if we're at like a 15% efficacy rate, in 2 years, you're going to start saving trillions. Because the system, it has to have a system. It's got to be a system. And the system has to be a system that works. We already know what the military system works. So we've just streamlined that system and added an AI-powered element that gives people a personalized roadmap. And then they can move, they can go. But you want to save Medicaid, you want to save tax dollars, you want to boost the economy, focus on getting people out of poverty. That's it. And the only way you get out of poverty is making money.
Well, you're actually, it feels like you saw my next question for you. Uh, my next question for you actually is critics might say that affordable housing and investor returns cannot coexist. How does your AI powered system defy that myth, by increasing profitability and resident success?
Yeah. So one of the things I like to say in private equity world is concessionary. So are the returns concessionary? Meaning if I do a regular project, I'm going to make a 20% annualized return. But if I do an impact project, I'm making a 10% annualized return. And so that problem is real. When we first started, we did way better than a regular project would do. And then we got too focused on impact, and then they became concessionary returns. And so we learned that lesson hard, that you have to structure the deal so that the returns are fantastic. Now, when we partner with public housing authorities, we get government-backed capital stacks, meaning that we can get bonds and grants that are at low interest, they're low risk, there's guarantees on the rents. They'll rent 60% of the units or 50% of the units will go to public housing, guaranteed. They'll be on a 99-year land lease because we want the public housing authority to always own the land and always have a right. Because if not, Blackstone or one of these other big groups, they'll take those properties out of the housing and right into market rate to maximize their profits. You can have a very healthy profit, non-concessionary profit, by building a capital stack that's 80%, 90% funded by the government, 70% funded by the government, and then come in and you have guarantees from the government on rents and everything else. It becomes a very good, very healthy return for investors.
Well, I'm looking at your educational background right now. You do have a Bachelor of Science in Business Strategy. And of course, you do have a master's degree in healthcare administration and policy, global health emphasis. With this background, I think you would very much relate to what I am thinking right now due to my background in economics. My first degree is in economics, and capitalism and socialism are very separate philosophies. But you have done an excellent job, my friend, in achieving a hybrid of these two concepts, and not just a hybrid, an optimal hybrid. of these two concepts. One of the past guests on this podcast gave me a title that is on my LinkedIn. She calls me a modern day business philosopher. And I think you are somebody who could also pass for, a conferment of that title as well. As modern day business philosophers, let's try to break this down. What are your thoughts on pure capitalism, and what are your thoughts on socialism, and why do you think achieving a hybrid, an optimal hybrid, is the answer to society's problem today?
Oh, I guess it depends on how we define pure capitalism. In my mind, the simple root of capitalism is we act in our own best interest to maximize profits.
Uh-huh.
When you add in their power disparities, when you add in there the realities of life, when you add in their fraud, deceit, capitalism can get pretty rough, right?
Dog eat dog.
So there's a reason there's a government, right? Once you get over, there's a theory of 500 people. Once you get over 500 people, you need a government because then people start attacking each other, clans, tribes, etc. Right?
Anarchy.
Anarchy, right? Yeah, and we see it, right? When a government is focused on taking care of the people, the most vulnerable of society, that's what our government is for. Take care of the most vulnerable of society. Also provide the infrastructure so that every single person who wants to achieve and grow can, right? There will always be problems. Humans are not perfect, right? They aren't. The government is obviously not perfect. We live in a crazy world right now where news agencies have turned into clickbait, and they've learned that the more crazy, salacious, ridiculous the story is, truth does not matter anymore. You can turn on the news and I'm like, I have no idea what's true. Whatever that is, it sounds crazy, and I don't even know if it's real. And
It's
so
so sad. It's so sad. I don't even want to use any longer.
right, yeah, like CNN, NBC, Fox, they've all turned into like TikTok. It's like TikTok.
They all feel like rumor mongers right now,
Rumor
and
mongers, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's sad to see.
It's sad. Like I've been, in Afghanistan watching things, been part of things that happened, and then watch it get posted on the news, and it was completely different than what the reality was. I was like, I
Uh-huh.
was there. I'm a part of this. That's
Exactly.
not what happened.
Like growing up in Africa, I grew up in Nigeria the first 30 years of my life, and going out and seeing what the Western media paints of my country. And I'm like, excuse me, I come from there, man. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you said is absolutely BS.
It's absolutely BS. And then everybody eats it and drinks it. And I'm like, oh my goodness,
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. And Trump just announced himself he's king of America, right? And then on the other side, like,
Please invite him on the King Dems Podcast.
yeah,
The King of America on the King Dems Podcast.
yeah,
It's gonna be fun.
it's crazy, right? Like why can't anyhow? So somebody's got to focus on how do we help the poorest of the poor? How do we help people get out of poverty? Because nobody cares, right? If the government cared about getting people out of poverty, they would do stuff for that. And instead, right now, we just live in a world where everyone's just trying to get reelected so they can make more money. And so they will say whatever they need to say to their constituents to get votes. And what gets votes is radicalizing your constituents. That's the path we are on right now in the US, is radicalizing constituents to get them to get out of their butts, get their butts out of the chairs and go do a vote. So right now we're trying to work with public housing authorities. We are trying to implement a system that we have created and have been implementing and working, but we're just trying to do it at scale because we know we help people get out of poverty. We want to do this at a massive scale because that's what I care about. If I could help millions of people get out of poverty, man, I'll die super happy, man.
Let's geek out on tech for a minute. How do you know who you're speaking to? Do you know that I am AI?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk to AI.
Okay, so my name is Ademola and my middle name is Isimeme. So my initials are AI. I don't know why my parents set me up this way, and I am a very, very big AI enthusiast, AI evangelist. I have literally used AI to scale up my business, accelerate, everything that I do in my life. And some people call me AI because that's literally my initials. How does AI specifically help our residents transition out of poverty faster?
So the system that we've almost ready to launch essentially gives people a personalized roadmap to success and then access to the resources necessary. And then we have the nonprofit team that coaches and mentors people because you still need a human interaction. And so right now we're calling it Percy, your personal success companion. And I'll keep a lot of that under wraps, but we're launching a pilot with it and testing it on people in public housing, not testing it on them, but testing it with the people in public housing who already struggle. So we're doing the most difficult challenges to make sure that we work out all the iterations, the kinks, all the possibilities are already there. AI already does all this stuff. We've already designed and implemented probably 2/3 of the system, but now we're just finalizing, wrapping it up and setting out to deploy. The whole objective here is let me back up. Let's say your name's Maria. You're 28 years old. You're fleeing a domestic violence situation and you have a 3-year-old at home and a 5-year-old at home. All right. You come into public housing, you have $0 of income. You have 2 little kids at home. How are you going to go get a job? So the current system says you need to go get a job. And Maria's thinking, I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old at home or 5-year-old at home. How am I supposed to go get a job? I need childcare. I have $0. I can't afford childcare. Right. Period. Stop. She's done. Right. And so the welfare system is going to provide her a house, food, utilities, phone, transportation. They're going to spend, and healthcare. They're going to spend between 40 to 60,000 a year on Maria. So what we do is with our public housing, with support services on site, she now can log into Percy. Percy's going to figure out who she is, talk to her, understand her situation, and is going to say, Maria, it sounds like you really like to help people. How would you like to do healthcare and become an LPN? Maria has no idea what an LPN is. Most people down there don't. So LPN, licensed practical nurse, there's programs out there that will pay for her training, $0 out of her pocket. But she doesn't have a GED. She didn't graduate high school. So it needs to take stock of that and understand, okay, you didn't graduate high school. First, we need to get you into a GED program. And first, we're going to put you with your counselor here at the Halo of Hope site that we're at. So she can go meet with her counselor. They'll set her up with childcare, get her transportation, help her finish the program, help her finish her GED, apply for the LPN position for the training program. That's about a year long. A year later, year and a half later, she graduates that program and she gets a job offer today for about 55 grand a year. She has childcare. She just went through the program in a year and a half. And now she's making 55 grand a year on her own. And the program is going to help her continue to elevate. Maybe she wants to be a doctor. Maybe she wants to be a full nurse, whatever it is. And so that's the system. Like that's how you get people out of poverty. Maybe it's Tommy. Tommy wants to make money. Well, let's help you get into a internship or, go apprentice as an electrician or a welder or something else. 2 years, 3 years later, Tommy's making 60, 70 grand a year working on his journeyman license. So that's the system. And healthcare workers are like in super high demand.
Always.
Electricians, welders, dirt guys, all those people, they're in super high demand. Construction workers, like we can't find them. And yet we have millions of Americans sitting in poverty doing nothing. And they don't know how to get jobs, those kind of jobs. They don't have access. And you may say, well, they should just walk down to the place and ask for a job. I'm like, they're going to walk down there looking like a homeless person, ask the foreman for a job, and the foreman's going to say no, right? They need a system that helps them prepare and then go ask or get connected to the right people that can then ask. And some cities do have some things that work. It's just so fractionalized across the states that, it's like, okay, this system in Indianapolis works pretty good, but you drive to Gary, Indiana, they got nothing. You got to go to Chicago and, if you can get into the unions, you're good. But if you can't get into the unions, you're screwed. And then they're going to look at your background check and you had a felony because you were 18 years old trying to provide for your family and you sold some drugs. So you're not going to get hired. So you might as well just die in poverty. I mean, that's kind of like how the system is set up.
Super silly.
And so we're
You know,
disrupting it.
poverty is not a good thing. I can very, very much, relate to it, especially if you grew up in Africa. You would see poverty face to face, and poverty is not it's not pleasant. It's not beautiful. It's the opposite of that. And I know it's something that you can very much relate to. You worked in war zones, in the slums, the trenches. What was the most unexpected lesson about human resilience, and human existence that you picked up and still lives with you till today?
I've met a lot of happy people in poverty. And
Happiness is free.
I met a lot of miserable people who drive Lambos. So
Mhm.
the thing that people, and I met very angry people in poverty too.
Poverty can inspire anger, trust me.
Yeah, it can inspire anger, right? Especially young men, especially in young men.
With a lot of testosterone.
A lot of testosterone who feel entitled to have something better,
Hmm.
right? And so then they want to take it because they don't have a path. They don't have a path. They don't know what to do, and it bothers them. So as a man, I know this. Like, if I don't know how to provide for my family,
And
you want to wreck a man. So, you end up turning to crime because that's what you have access to.
messes with you mentally.
It messes with you mentally and everyone around you, like, look, like you join a gang because you need some kind of camaraderie, you need some kind of coaching, you need some type of mentorship, and you're not getting it anywhere else. And you need some kind of path to make money. And that's it. So that's the path. So what you have to do is you have to disrupt that whole machine by creating a different path, a different avenue. And so that's what we're advocating for is like, there's a different way. We have it. It's not rocket scientists or rocket science. It is complicated. Yeah. You can't just go to slums and give people free stuff. So now they're super poor and have 75 shirts. That's nice.
Give a man a fish, you fed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you fed him for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's it, right? That's it. And so what we're doing is providing them a path, and we're using real estate to make money doing it so that our investors can make a lot of money tearing down and rebuilding these nasty old slums into launch pads, brand new communities that are launch pads with a child care on site, an education center on site, and a business center on site. And it's like, hey, you're in poverty, you're here with us, we're going to help you get out as fast as possible. And my goal is 2 years. Like, we can get people out in 2 years from 0 to 50K a year in 2 years, and then have a path made for them that they can continue to follow forever. It's up to them. You can't force people to do stuff. And we've learned that. We still evict people from our apartment complexes because some of them refuse to accept help from a nonprofit, refuse it. And some of them just like, they can't let go of being criminals. So, right. You have to be safe. If the kids here can't be safe, then
Forgive me for laughing. You sounded like a comedian. For a minute, I felt like I had Joe Rogan on my show.
yeah, that's the world we live in. Right.
I'm quite curious. So what's the logistic? What's the arrangement? Between that time wherein the structure is being torn down and the rebuild process. So where are these people relocated to in the meantime?
Yeah, great question. So we like to have swing facilities. So we build a facility or take over a facility that we can fill it with those folks.
Okay.
Otherwise, they go on to project-based vouchers or tenant-based vouchers, and they get relocated. And the HUD authorities have that. The local authorities know where to people go. And then we redevelop in phases. Normally, we'll leave one side of the complex intact. We'll tear down one
Okay.
side, build up a new side, move people into there, then tear down the next side and do it in 2 or 3 phases. Sometimes 4 or 5 phases if it's a larger 600 unit complex or something like that. We want mixed income. You don't want a brand new facility full of poor people, because then you just have a new facility full of poor people. We want poor people to be around other people that are not poor. So we like mixed income, market rate, people who already have jobs making 50, 60, 70, 80 grand a year that can casually interact with folks who are poor, and they can see the nice cars, they can see the dinners, the clothes, and they want to level up so that they can do the same thing. And then we have on-site services where they can go in and be like, all right, somebody's wearing Lululemon. I really want Lululemon. Great. You make $0, you better not be buying no Lululemon right now. You need to get a job. And the way you get a job is you need to go through this training program. And I'm not talking about a $15 an hour job or a $20 an hour job, 30 grand a year, 40 grand a year. No, we need 50, 60 grand a year, something self-sustainable for real, not Taco Bell or Pizza Hut. No fast food jobs. We got to get people to where they can really live. That's it. That's where, you know.
No slander against Pizza Hut is
No, man,
allowed.
like, no. It's like,
You can talk about Domino's.
yeah, like those jobs are for kids in high school, They're not for grown adults.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Unless you're like a
Wow.
manager, I guess there. I don't know what they make now, but grown adults need to provide for families. And we can do better as a nation. But we're not going to do better
Absolutely.
as a nation if we just keep doing the same thing, or we only count how much we're giving to the housing authorities. It's not about that. It's about the humans, people in the buildings and the communities. Like, how many of those people are we helping? So that's one of our big things with AI, with our tracking mechanism is, okay, you start at 0 and in 2 years you have $80,000 a year in salary because you did whatever. Like, that needs to get tracked. And then that system that creates that gets rewarded. Go on any government website and tell me where it says that they produced an outcome for a human that mattered. They don't. They only calculate their spending. That's dumb.
I think Elon Musk is going to have a word with you regarding this. Expect Elon Musk in your inbox very soon. And by the way, do you have a Twitter account? Sorry, Elon. Do you have an X account?
I do not. I need to start talking about this crap on X.
Okay, okay. You better not get an X because you might just get X'd on X. But on a more serious note, I did have a guest, Alan Lazarus, from your neck of the woods. He's going to have a second appearance on the podcast, I think later on this week. If so, and then, he says something. He says America is suffering from an entitlement uh, epidemic, entitlement mentality epidemic. Like, do you want to speak about that? Because you actually touched, on that when you talked about, people refusing help and people not, wanting to take that conscious effort, that active effort to level up, even when they're given a helping hand. There's a proverb where I come from in Nigeria. They say it's a child that opens their arms that the parent can lift up. If you don't open your arms right, you cannot be lifted up. So how do you cope with that entitlement, mentality pandemic that is ongoing? And what efforts do you guys do to achieve a change of orientation?
Yeah, great question. So I think it in the US is taught in high school. We have an educational system that is pretty broken. We teach people, the idea is to teach people how to learn, but we spend, I don't know, 6 months on trapezoids which is cool. Like I like trapezoids just as much as you like trapezoids, right? So
I do like trapezoids.
like, how does that help me provide for my family?
Well, when was the last time I was walking down the street and I say, "Hey, trapezoid, what's up, man?"
What's up? Yeah. How do you monetize that thing? Right. And so that they're just taught, like, you learn all this stuff and then you just go out and you're going to get, the cars you want and the house you want, and you're going to get a great job. We don't work, we don't discipline. And, hard times make great men and women who
Uh-huh.
went through those hard times, right? You know the saying. And we live in a time where our parents worked themselves to death to overcome poverty and create something. And some of us are still in there, working that. And then the new generation is just like, I get all this stuff and I deserve it. And then they go to high school and middle school and they're taught that you deserve all this stuff and you shouldn't be working and chores are bad. And how dare
Life owes
kids
you
work?
nothing.
Yeah. How dare your parent discipline? Yeah.
I hate to bring a spoiler alert. Life owes you nothing. And I really love what my father used to tell myself and my brothers growing up. He told us something. He said, "Education is the best legacy. That's the only thing I owe you. The only thing I owe you is a good education. I'm going to give you a good education. Do with it whatever you can do with it, but do not expect to get anything off me, you know." And he used to tell us that Chinese proverb, give a man a fish, you fed him for a day, and teach a man to fish, you fed him for a lifetime. And that pretty much made us appreciate education and critical thinking. Apply your mind. Your greatest asset is your mind. You can lose all your physical assets, but as long as you do not lose your mind, you've not lost anything in life. It's so sad to see this pandemic that is going on. It's a mindset disease that is spreading like wildfire. And there are two major types of mindsets. You have the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And what I set out to promote by way of this podcast is the growth mindset. So how can modern day business philosophers like yourself and myself, spread the word and, would I say, push out this evangelism work that we're doing, in order to achieve greater impact?
Yeah. So the only way anyone ever hears your voice is if you share your voice. And so I can complain all I want, but until I share that voice with the world of like, hey, maybe we're focused on the wrong things. Maybe we should focus on humans and outcomes and then measure those. Nobody's going to listen to me because you have to hear somebody's voice to listen to them. And so
Exactly.
LinkedIn, all the social media places. We live in a world now where somebody who grows up in rural Oklahoma or in Nigeria can get their voice heard.
Shout out to Nigeria.
Yeah. You can
Shout
get your
out to
voice.
Nigeria. I'm currently number 28 on the
Yeah.
education podcast rankings, Apple Podcasts in Nigeria. I'm grateful to my people.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
It's
know,
great to see that Nigerians appreciate education.
we live in an incredible time. So if you have something you're passionate about, like raise your voice and make it
Mhm.
heard and known. And no, I'm tired of the media just spinning everything crazy. Like, why can't we just it's hard. It's hard.
And you know what? Speaking of media, right? You talked about the Foxes, the CNNs of this world. Do you know the interesting thing? They are no longer the traditional media. I think traditional media right now is podcasting, but
Yeah, it's
it's
very much going that way because people are finally waking up that CNN and Fox News and CNBC or MSNBC, they're all political TikToks. That's what they are.
political TikTok.
Political TikToks. Like clickbait. They're just political clickbait.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. With yeah. That's it.
I know you have 8 minutes left on this show, and I would like to maximize that. So, real quick, you're actually rebuilding the 1950s era public housing into mixed income hubs, right? And of course, what's one policy change that you would love to see that would help supercharge the work that you're doing across the United States?
Yeah, I would love to see what we're asking for right now is to let us take the software system across all of public housing and then mandate that those folks in there have to use it to create a personalized pathway. It's free. It's free to them. It costs them nothing. Costs the U.S. government nothing. It's free to them, but it'll help people get out of poverty. Like that's the whole objective. So help them get out of poverty. Look, I'm a capitalism. I will make money off of that deal. So will a lot of other people, but it'll be free to users, free to the government, and it will save them trillions of dollars. So that's a policy change is to one, start focusing on the humans that are involved, like the thing that really matters, which is humans. And start reporting on it. And our system does that. It focuses on the human and reports on them.
Okay, so that leads me to my final question before the quick fire round. What's that optimal, or would I say, North Star metric for you? Is it return on investment? Is it lives changed? Is it impact achieved? Or what exactly is that optimal metric for you?
Yeah, so I have 3 different verticals that we track metrics in. So the first one is our real estate, and that's return on investment or return on invested capital. And we really try and target 20% plus IRRs, internal rates of return. We really try to hit 8% cash on cash or better. Equity multiples try and hit 2.25x in 5 years. That's our targets. With government subsidies, it can get much better than that, but that's where we're at. Foundation is lives impacted, hours of education, so forth. And then the software system, there's 7 pillars that we have. And some of that is like how much money is in savings from zero, how much monetary change in their savings accounts from $0 to, we want 6 months of reserves in their savings account. I know it's crazy. Americans live on debt, but like we can teach something better. Credit score rating changes, education milestones, educational hours, job skill training hours, and then change in base pay. So are they making $0 and now they're making 50 grand a year? Like those are things that we track, and how much time they have in housing. So how much time have they been on welfare or subsidies, and comparing that to the outcomes of others who aren't in the system, who are spending on average 10 years in the system. And our goal is to keep people on average about 2 years before they exit poverty and are on their own.
Wow, what a long shot. What a tall goal, but then impossible is nothing. That is my philosophy. We have 4 minutes left. It takes 4 minutes to save a life, and let us save lives here on the podcast. I'm going to give you 5 quick fire round questions. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Number 1, what's your best stress relief tactic from your firefighting days?
Morning time and scriptures and prayer. And then spending an hour or so with my son in the morning, every morning. That's a great stress reliever.
I love me, a man of faith. The just shall live by faith. Number 2, Eagle Scout badge, a skill that you still use till today.
Being prepared, like that still resonates.
Prepared. Man, it still resonates with me till today, and I'm always very grateful, to be very honest. Back home in Nigeria, they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and yeah, it's very true until the end of time. One book every disruptor should read.
Last one I just read that was really, really good was Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Okay, I'm going to steal that off your bookshelf. If you do not see it tomorrow, know that it is in London, England.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is AI's next big leap in social impact.
Ours, Percy, Personal Success Campaign. That's the next one.
Okay, fantastic. And of course, finish the sentence. The future of poverty alleviation is what?
The future of
Poverty alleviation is.
The future of poverty alleviation is Percy, Personal Success.
Mercy through Percy. I love that. From me to you, it's a very, very, very big thank you. I always say this on the podcast. An attitude of gratitude is good attitude. And anytime a person shares their time with you, they share their life with you because the SI unit for measuring life is time. I do not take your time for granted. From me to you, it's love and respect from the other side of the pond. God bless you. And of course, I wish you the very, very best in all of your endeavors. And of course, I am always an email away and another book, would I say podcast session away as well. I'm happy to collaborate with you on your projects and see how we can bring our expertise, from our company to ensure that you guys achieve your goals. And do you want to leave a shout out to anybody before you leave? And of course, please help me beg the audience to do the needful. They need to show us more love. Thank you very much for the love you guys have been sharing. We've been on the top 200 chats in 5 different countries in the last 1 week. It's a lot of love. Thank you very much. But of course, we can do better. My Nigerian brothers, we are going for number one sport. We are number 28 today, but come on, number one or nothing.
Yeah.
Samuel sells. What do you want to sell before we leave?
Yeah. Hey, if hopefully you felt a little bit of inspiration from this, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Samuel Sells. I love connecting with people. I think we can roll this thing out across the entire planet and help people all over the world find ways to create income on their own using the incredible power of artificial intelligence that is coming. So we're excited about that. I'm excited about making a difference. And then with public housing, same thing. Like if you want to make a real difference and invest in a way that improves people's lives, we're always looking for values, mission aligned investors. And we really appreciate all the ones that we have so far.
Interesting. Guess what? I just formed a new tongue twister. Sam sells seashells at the seashore. If you can do that 5 times without fail, you're gonna get $20 from me and Sam sells.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tag us on social media. And of course, from me to you guys, once again, is love and respect. Till I come your way again, please, keep showing love, support, and of course, keep winning in life. From me, it is goodbye, guys, and of course, salute to the soldier boy.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.